Welcome to Natural Medicine Secrets. I'm Jonathan. Chronic serious illness. The words alone strike fear into the hearts of many as we rely on our doctors and specialists to know how to help us. After all, it is the reason doctors go into medicine in the first place. Held in the highest of regard is one of the oldest binding documents in history, written by Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine himself. The Hippocratic Oath states that a doctor has the moral obligation to treat the ill to the best of their ability and to teach the secrets of medicine to the next generation. My personal mission is to end needless suffering by constantly striving to find better natural ways to heal and to share the truth with you about the myriad of alternative methods available to treat the chronic illnesses that are plaguing millions of people in the modern world today. Big Pharma would prefer for you to believe that treating the symptoms of autoimmune disease, heart disease, and cancer through expensive treatment plans, invasive procedures, and prescription medicine is the only way. But the truth is, conventional methods have been stagnant in their research for better, side effect-free methods to truly heal a patient as a whole, addressing the root of the conditions and diseases causing the symptoms in the first place. This is because it's profitable to keep us sick. You will watch and hear tried, tested, and true success stories, not only from our doctors and experts, but from honest testimonies from people just like you who have survived and now thrive by using incredible natural protocols. And they've done so despite being told that they've exhausted all their options. I want to share these amazing secrets with you today. In the words of Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food.
Well, I'm a cancer survivor, and so I feel like I got famous. I got cancer and I live to talk about it, so I'm talking. And, I wrote a New York Times bestseller called Cancer Schmancer because it took me 2 years and 8 doctors to get a proper diagnosis of uterine cancer. And I didn't want what happened to me to happen to other people by means of misdiagnosis and mistreatment. And then when I went on my book tour and started speaking to people, I realized that what happened to me has happened to millions of Americans and other patients all over the world. And so from the book came the movement, the Cancer Schmancer movement. And what I try to do as a visionary of the organization is to motivate, educate, and activate people to transform from patient into medical consumer, and to understand that how they live equals how they feel. So they have to really start looking at how they live and, doubling down on the choices that they make, that they be healthy ones, eco-friendly ones, and organic.
I didn't trust any nutritionist at all. I almost didn't go to Pam Popper's conference. So I went to Pam Popper's conference and I met a scientist who has many similarities to me. She reads scientific literature, she's science-based, and of course, the scientific and medical establishment has gone after her and tried to ruin her career, just as they went after me early on, tried to ruin my career. We won, both of us. So we had a lot in common. I heard Pam talking for 2 conferences about the plant-based diet. And the science made sense, the evolution made sense, the studies going back to the original China study made sense. And I was trying in my mind to figure out how I could help my wife get on a plant-based diet, because she had been suffering for many years, probably 35 years, from ulcerative colitis, inflammatory bowel disease. Every day was painful, every single day. And she tried this and she tried that, and she just got worse and she got more upset, and she wanted nothing to do with any of what I was doing with Pam. So Pam and I talked, and I decided that, well, I'm 25 pounds overweight or whatever, 30. I'll go on the diet. Ginger loves me. She'll start me on the diet. Maybe she'll try him. So what happened at that time in my life, I was about 79 years old. I'm 81 now. And I always thought I knew what I would die of. It was interesting. It didn't frighten me. I'm not afraid of death. I don't want a painful death. I'm not afraid of death. And I thought I might die of a cardiac problem because I was taking medication for high blood pressure. And I thought I might die of a cardiovascular respiratory problem because I was getting pneumonia almost, or severe bronchitis almost every year until Ginger figured out I had asthma, not my doctor. And then he put me on asthma meds so I didn't get pneumonia and severe bronchitis, but I was on asthma meds, the inhalers all the time. I would take antibiotics 5 times a year, which my allergist said, that's not bad for your age. And I would take a prednisone once a year or twice a year for one thing or another in this whole complex of the asthma problems.
I'm Gil Rodriguez. I am 34 years old, and I had quite a run-in with something I never thought I'd ever experienced before, and that was dealing with cancer. And I always had cancer in the back of my head, mainly because it does run in my family. Both my grandparents died from cancer, my uncle, and just kind of seeing a lot of that happen, I was aware that, that's one of the struggles I have to fight. And didn't really think to get it as early as I did, but back in June of 2018, I started having, well, before that, I started having a lot of problems eating and swallowing food, not being able to swallow food, having a hard time keeping it down. And within time, from about March to June, it started progressively getting worse. And never saw a doctor. I hardly ever go to doctors. I was like, not a big deal. I'm still young, I'm still strong, I can still take it. And finally, just one day had to go in because it was just getting out of control. And they thought I just had a type of GERD, acid reflux problems. So they gave me some prescription medication, and a month of that didn't really do anything. And then
did you feel like the medication was helping you at all?
No, I just felt like I was just taking a pill and wasn't really doing anything for me. I still have the same problem. I still couldn't eat. I was losing weight, not like fast or hard or crazy, but I was still losing weight and not being able to consume the foods that were good for me or I wanted. So then I went to the doctor again, and we decided to do a endoscopy, where they send the camera down your throat and they look at what's going on. And they thought it was just a procedure of stretching out my esophagus. Maybe it was just too small. It happens for people sometimes, I guess. But when they sent the camera down there, they found a tumor at the bottom of my esophagus where it meets my stomach. And they biopsied it, and when I came to, they told me that they had found something in there. I got the pictures, and it looked pretty gnarly. And it took about 2 weeks to get the results, and it came back cancer, esophagus cancer. So that kind of threw a whole wrench in, my plans for life, for family, work. Just everything kind of turned upside down from there. And I was diagnosed. That diagnosis happened probably the second week of June. To hear them say the word cancer to me was, man, it's like someone just hit you in some deep core of your stomach, and you just couldn't help but just panic almost. And that's kind of what I did. I just panicked, and you start flashing back things that may not be a possibility anymore, which I do tend to think a lot and overthink. So it kind of got the best of me a little bit.
I was privileged to be on the medical staff at True North Health Center, about an hour north of San Francisco, for 8 years. And so I saw over thousands of patients, actually over 2,000 patients come through in those 8 years. And they had every medical catastrophe you can imagine. There was some common chords of obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, clogged arteries, inflammation, the Western disease spectrum. And I remember a couple of patients that responded so beautifully. I remember a physiotherapist gentleman, he was in his late 50s. His arteries were so clogged up that he could not walk across the courtyard, which is only about 20 yards, without stopping. With terrible chest pain, he would turn gray, and he had to take a nitroglycerin. His angina was that severe. And not only was this physically distressing and frightening, but it's the feeling of the hand of death around your heart. And the man was looking at his own mortality. It was frightening and shocking. You could see that in his whole countenance. Well, the beauty of a plant-based diet is that it's very gentle with the arteries, and the plaque that was lining his artery walls started melting away. The arteries opened up, blood flow increased. Within 10 days, he was walking across that courtyard back and forth with no angina. Within 3 weeks, he was walking around the building and enjoying every step because he wasn't having chest pain. And he spent a good 2 months at the center, and by the end, he was walking up the hill behind our clinic, and he had a new lease on life. Talk about born again. This man was arterially born again, and he was so grateful. And he had a young grandchild that he could now watch grow up and feel optimistic about that. There was a spring in his step, and color returned to his face. Blood flow makes quite a difference. And it was wonderful, wonderful to see. And boy, he has stuck with it like he just will not take a risk to ever go back to where he was. And it was just a spectacular transformation.
Well, after 2 weeks on the diet, I got weak. And I said to myself, see, nonsense. I thought it was nonsense. I said that to myself. Wasn't going to say it aloud. I was so hoping it would help Ginger. And then Ginger said, honey, why don't you try your blood pressure? I tried my blood pressure and it was like down to 100 systolic. I no longer had high blood pressure. And it was 2 weeks on just a basic plant-based diet. So I thought, this is really interesting. So then I kept on the diet. I lost about 30 pounds. I probably could still lose a little more. And I got over the asthma and the pneumonia. I still, if I get into a very allergic system, maybe with a lot of mold, maybe once every 3 months, I'll take a single puff of my steroid inhaler, period. I don't even take all the other stuff that goes with it. And I don't take any of the pills. So due to Pam Popper, I don't know what I'm going to die of. How's that? So Ginger started the diet, and in 2 weeks, she was pain-free for the first time that I knew her, pretty much. I probably had been in emergency rooms with her a dozen times.
What did that mean to you, Dr. Bregan, to see you walk like that?
It was like a God-sent miracle. And she's been pain-free ever since. She does not have ulcerative colitis anymore.
These series have been great because in my case, I had an autoimmune crash complete, and I was on ICU, in the ICU for 3 years, and basically 5 years of really critical health. So now I'm back up, and this is the first year I haven't gone to the emergency room. And so what I did was some of the things that you had talked about, intermittent fasting. When I was in the ICU, I did 3-day fast, because at that time, that was the way to try to reboot your system, and it worked. So when we were able to do reboot and stimulate the system from the outside, instead of having my body auto-react, it worked. And then we were able to, from there, I was able to use the intermittent fastings and other type of simple natural foods and staying away from glutens and changing my diet a little bit. I got better health. And I'm doing much better now. And so now I'm doing great. I'm able to walk every day. I'm able to do a lot more than I've done in, for about 5 years, since 2013. So my health is super now. And I'm back teaching. I don't have much of a voice. It goes like this. That's about all. But I'll take it, because it's before, for about 5 or 6 years, I was like this. So I couldn't talk at all. So it's cool. So I'm getting there. And we're getting better health, everything's coming back to stronger. So there's a quick idea. These things do make a difference, because it gives us these rare people like me that have gone through these type of autoimmune problems and different types of things. We say, maybe I should just try a couple of these things and see if they work, and they do. And so I kind of knew they worked, because I say, okay, we should do these things, but we had to put them in place, right? And then they start working for you, and I didn't have a need for them. But I heard about them, but when you really study them, you say, listen, this should be not just studied, but it should be taught. So I teach the medical doctors here to use that in the clinical exams so that the SPs, the standardized patients that they're training with, will say, oh, I heard that in the US, they hear that. But I teach the foreign doctors that are coming to the US that need to pass the medical boards. This is who I teach. That's my market. And so they need to know what's going on in the US, how you treat it, because they're going to get into residencies in the US. So they should be learning this before they get into the residency so they could spread the word on how we treat, and these type of message will get better to where a big problem is in the medical field, because the doctors don't know. They don't know. And so I've been using herbs for years. You can use Viverfew for migraines, and we have different herbs and spices that you have in different countries. But we need to teach this to the doctors so they can teach their patients and they can get them doing that. I think that you should look at all the tools, look at what's going on in your body, and if you're having problems, you should try some of the things that are suggested because they work. Now, they're not just an idea, let's try this, and we want to sell you a supplement. This stuff is tried and true, and it's been for thousands of years usually, and it just works. We know that it's been working, but we just sometimes, because we don't believe in it, because we think everything has been compartmentalized into a little pill. Natural processes of depression is now saying, let's classify, put it in a thing, but we're allowed to be depressed. That's part of life. We get disappointed. People want to be happy, and all you have to do to be happy is set the bar at the right level. And my bar is just having a pulse and having the ability to breathe. With that, everything else is bliss. No matter what happens bad to me, I've still got a pulse. I can still breathe, so I'm happy. So if you set your bar there, then your life can be anything, and you're going to be happy.
Remember, right now you can save up to 93% for instant on-demand access to our silver and gold packages.
But this massive discount won't last forever. This offer is only available during this premiere screening. So act now to take advantage of the dozens of hours of information on video, audio, and in PDF format that accompany each package. Plus, you get lifetime access and over $2,778 in free bonuses.
You'll also get books, DVDs sent out to you in the mail with gold package. So you can read along and learn from all these amazing resources at your own pace, at your fingertips. With the information gathered directly from 57 of the world's best doctors, scientists, and researchers, all having expertise in both traditional medicine and alternative medicine, Natural Medicine Secrets is one of the most complete resources for anyone looking to heal their body with natural medicine instead of drugs. To see for yourself all that you'll receive in our silver and gold packages, as well as the huge 93% discount available just for a limited time, click the link below now and get instant on-demand access to all of this life-changing information by simply clicking the banner or the button below before this opportunity is gone. Go ahead, check it out right now. I can't wait to see the transformation that comes into your life by taking action on this special opportunity. Our immune system is designed to protect and heal our bodies from antigens. Antigens are foreign toxins and microbes that enter our bloodstream and have no business being there. In a properly functioning immune system, antigens are identified and our bodies create microscopic soldiers that mark the antigens and wage war on them. These are known as antibodies. An immune system disorder is classified as either being unusually underactive or unusually overactive. In the case of a deficiency of the immune system, the body is unable to defend itself and is left dangerously compromised and susceptible to chronic infections and diseases, even from the simplest of viruses like a common cold. When the immune system is overactive, the body's response to a specific trigger creates an increase in antibodies which launch their immune attack on healthy cells and tissues in the body. This misfire of information happening in the body is known as autoimmune disease. There are over 80 different types of autoimmune disorders. Some are very well known, such as lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, Graves' disease, psoriasis, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and others that are more rare and get less media exposure. Maybe you, yourself, or someone you love is struggling with one or more of these debilitating conditions right now. And that's why you're here, searching for answers. Sadly, anyone of any age can develop an autoimmune disease, and the risk of developing multiple autoimmune conditions increase with the onset of the first disease. Regardless of the disorder, the solutions to better health are the same across the board. The key is identifying and putting an end to the triggers that cause an abnormal influx of antibodies, and with that knowledge, it is possible to stop and even reverse autoimmune diseases. Hey, this is Jonathan here, and we are with Dr. Newsom, and I'm with my family, with my wife and my mother-in-law and father-in-law, Jesus and Marilyn, and over here we have my brother, Billy, and Daniel, Dr. Newsom's son, right? So, and then this is just going to be so incredible. He's going to be teaching us how to detoxify our bodies. Now, this is relevant to you if you're struggling with anything, absolutely. That's right, Dr. Newsom, isn't it?
That's exactly right.
It's relevant to you if you're struggling with anything. It's relevant to you if you feel amazing. That doesn't matter. You want to get rid of anything that could be a potential hazard in your body, and we're all in this same world that is basically filled with disease, and we're all suffering one way or another. So why not get all the toxins, impurities out of our body, and then from a clean slate rebuild with good, healthy nutrition? Dr. Newsom's going to show us how to do it. And my family here, Dr. Newsom's son, Dr. Newsom's family to me, his son, his brother to me, and we are going to be asking some questions that you may have, and we're going to be learning just like you are through this exciting little session here. So, Dr. Newsom, take it away.
All right, very good, very good. Well, let's talk about, okay, so we did a little talk about detox, why we need to detox. We'll recap that real quick. So today we have 27 million toxic chemicals in the environment around us that didn't exist 60 years ago, okay? A vast majority of these chemicals by themselves can cause cancer, okay, just by themselves. What we find in our environment is they don't happen by themselves, okay? So we have this cancer-causing chemical and this cancer-causing chemical and maybe 15 others that are in our environment, mixing in our environment, creating chemicals that are even more toxic, okay? Because when you add a toxin to a toxin, it's not this one plus this one, it's this one multiplied by this one, okay? So their toxic effect gets amplified when you add two toxins together, okay? So it's not 1 + 1, it's whatever this one is multiplied by whatever this one is, and so the effect gets even worse. So if these things are accumulating in your system, what are they going to do to you? Well, they're going to cause problems. They're going to, it's going to accumulate and start causing disease. Well, what happens here is these things become irritants, and they cause irritation. Okay, a toxic chemical, when it comes into contact with our skin, burns our skin. If it comes into contact with a cell, if it's already passed into your system, it burns your cell. Okay, this is what happens, and then you have other toxins that our body can kind of buffer itself against, but it costs massive amounts of nutrients for our body to buffer against these toxic chemicals that we're exposed to all the time. And what happens is these chemicals in our environment cause irritation. Okay, but it's not just chemicals. It's also, let's say, bacteria or mold or fungus or parasites or those types of things. If they get into our body and we're exposed to those things cause irritation, okay? And Also, physical injury causes irritation. Think about spraining, you sprain your ankle. What happens to your ankle? It's going to swell right up. You get stung by a bee. What happens to your hand? You know, you get a mosquito bite. You know, okay. The body's response to irritation is an inflammatory response. Okay, so anything that causes irritation to your system will create an inflammatory response in your body. If you look at the Merck manual, okay, which is what all hospitals and all clinics have, a Merck manual in the back, and the doctor can go back and refer to the Merck manual and figure out how to diagnose a patient. Okay, if he has a question, you can always refer to the Merck manual. That's a standard thing you can refer to. So today they have them mostly on tablets. You can just scroll through it, you know, electronically. Today, 97% of what you'll find in the Merck manual is an itis. Okay, anything ending in itis is the body's inflammatory response. Okay, it's an inflammation. Okay, inflammation, over 95% of all known disease is just an inflammatory response. Okay, it's inflammation. It's either inflammation that's accumulated in our body or our body having a reaction to something. Okay, so our body only reacts to things when it's irritated. Okay, and the more irritants you have in your system that have accumulated in your system, the more inflammation you're going to have. Okay, the more inflammation you have in your system, the more frequently you're going to have reactions. Okay, your body's capacity to handle that inflammation, you know, the bigger the bubble gets, the less capacity your body's going to have to be able to handle that inflammation. So the more irritation we have, the more inflammation we have. Now, once inflammation sets in to our bodies and our body becomes inflamed in general, we have infection. Chronic infection starts to take place in our body. Okay, think of a piece of wood. You have a piece of wood out in your backyard and you get it, just leave it out there and it gets all wet. Okay, it doesn't really start to deteriorate really bad until it gets all wet, right? Once it gets waterlogged, it starts to deteriorate pretty quickly, right? Well, when our body becomes waterlogged or inflamed, it starts to deteriorate very quickly, okay? When the inflammatory process happens and our body swells up, okay, and we have this swelling and it stays swollen long enough, okay, the same thing that happens to waterlogged wood starts to happen to our body. Bugs move into it, okay, and start to break it down even faster. Okay, that's what happens in our body. So if we have lots of irritants, we're going to be more prone to have inflammation. The more inflammation we have, the more prone to chronic infection we're going to have. Okay, we're just going to be more and more prone to chronic infection. Now, just like a rotting piece of wood, okay, the more waterlogged it gets, the faster it deteriorates. Okay, and the more waterlogged it is, the faster it starts to grow things in it, right? Just like our body starts to grow things in it when it gets really inflamed. So I call this the 3 I's, okay? Irritation, inflammation, and infection. So all chronic disease starts with irritation that has, when your body's become so irritated that it can no longer adapt, okay? It stops trying to overcome that irritation, okay? What happens is it starts to accommodate that irritation. And so instead of trying to eliminate the toxin, it just starts to accommodate it. And so it stores it off someplace, you know? And then wherever it starts storing those irritants, you have more inflammation. Okay, so let's say that was the knee you hurt in high school playing football. Okay, well now every time you eat something that irritates your body, man, your knee just hurts like crazy, right? Or your back, or your stomach, or okay, any place where you already have a little bit of inflammation, the more more irritants that you come into contact with, the more inflammation happens. So what I'm trying to get at is it becomes a cascade of events. In our environment is full of irritants. It's full of irritants. And so our body keeps having these inflammatory responses to our environment, right? And the more inflammation we have, the more we become prone to just accommodate the irritants that are in our environment, which makes more inflammation. You follow what I'm saying? So it becomes a cascade of events here. And what breaks this cycle is detoxification. Okay, by detoxifying, we unload the irritants that we've accommodated and accumulated in our body. And when we do that, the inflammation starts to go down. Then our body can start dealing with chronic infections.
Dr. Newsom, do you think this would be a good time to go into what you understand around the hierarchy of like infections?
Yes, that would be excellent.
And
Yes.
Parasites and bacteria.
Yes.
That interrelationship.
Let's talk about that. That would be excellent.
Is that the next step?
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
So, guys, what are you guys learning while he's rubbing down his board?
I like the example about the water love.
Yeah.
It gives you a good visual of what
It's
I'm
very tangible. Doctor, just
Yes.
with inflammation.
Uh-huh.
So, you know how like there's a lot of things in the health food aisle or in Whole Foods that say anti-inflammatory foods. I'm sure that there's actually like a lot of anti-inflammatory foods, right?
Yes.
Just naturally in creation. So,
Right.
what are like the big three?
My favorites would be ginger, ginger root, excellent anti-inflammatory. Turmeric root,
Yeah.
also another excellent anti-inflammatory. I like essential oils.
Yeah.
Are also very good anti-inflammatories. They're wonderful, and the nice thing with essential oils is they can be used,
Yeah.
on the spot. If your wrist is bothering you, you can use an oil on your wrist, and it works right in that local area. It works really well. There are chuchuwasi is a favorite of mine. It's a herb from Peru.
Wow.
And the bark from chuchuwasi is an amazing anti-inflammatory, and it has kind of a affinity to the low back, in the hips and the legs. So it seems to work better in that area. And then there's another one called Iparuru, also from Peru. That one has more of an affinity to like the shoulders or the neck. And it's kind of interesting. They're herbal anti-inflammatories, they're herbs, but they have kind of an affinity to different areas in the body. And so I use those quite a bit.
Doc, can I just ask, because obviously you counsel a lot of people to stop drinking alcohol,
Sure.
how does, the common Australian or American beer drinker, you probably think probably 6 beers a week is probably
Sure,
the
sure,
average
sure.
thing.
Average,
for,
sure.
White males.
Right.
And so, but what would be the key factors of that detox chart with how alcohol affects you on a core gut level?
I think about alcohol is clinically, what do you use alcohol for?
Clean things.
To disinfect,
Yeah.
right? To kill bugs.
Yeah.
Well, your microbiome is made up of what? It's made up of bugs. And so if you are consistently drinking, it's both consistently drinking, or if you binge drink, you damage your microbiome. Exposing your system to alcohol over and over and over and over, you have an accumulated effect because it'll suppress certain microbes.
That's why I do cold turkey on alcohol.
Sure,
wine
just
and things like that.
nothing.
But then technically with kombucha,
Right.
I do have some alcohol in my system, so it's just, I think it's getting the good without the side effects.
That's exactly it. Sure, totally. Kombucha is excellent. And with alcohol, it'll suppress certain bugs, but other bugs like it. Okay, so in your microbiome, you can create an imbalance of more fungal type things like alcohol, where your bacterial, your bacilli type don't like alcohol as much. So you run into, you can create an imbalance. If you think of what happens to bread when you add yeast to it, it'll rise. What happens to a guy's gut when he drinks too much beer? It rises. Gets all bloated, you know, so their gut rises.
And also, most alcoholic drinks have like lots of sugar.
And there's lots of sugar. There's always, there's lots of sugar in alcohol itself is technically a sugar.
Wow.
So chronic infection, here's something that I think is very, very misunderstood. The most common chronic infections would be in the medical field are these two. And so in the medical field, when we think chronic infections, we almost always go to viruses, okay, or fungus. Those are the things that in medicine we always seem to go right to those two as chronic infection.
Hi guys, it's Jonathan here. I'm out in nature. It's beautiful out here. And I've got something important I want to share with you in regards to natural medicine secrets and the research that went into this and the particular things that we talk about in regards to ingredients that work, that are effective. One of the things that my wife and I discovered was that many things that we discovered to be the most effective were not available to most people. They either couldn't afford them, they were not together in the same product, or they were just not easily accessible. And that prevented healing, and it meant that we could share so much information on something, but we'd be steering people into a direction where they couldn't actually even find that thing that they needed. So we realized in the creation of this that we had to connect with the right doctors and scientists to see how we could be a part of that solution to help it make more sense, help it be more affordable, help it be easier and more effective to work more powerfully. And that's what we did when my wife and I created Well of Life. And Well of Life is something that's very close to my heart. We've seen so many transformations. It is I pinch myself. It was always my goal when I got into creating the content as a filmmaker to be able to create the world's best information on the subject of health and overcoming disease. And then I realized that my passion, my heart to see lives transformed and changed meant that I wanted to actually be a part of creating those right products that would help people. And I felt that really God blessed me with the ability to connect with all the right people that were able to help me and be so generous and giving. I even had a formulator that had worked on a formula for 20 years clinically as a scientist. And he gave that to me as a gift because he said to me, Jonathan, I can see that you actually want to see people better. And I've been wondering who that I would pass this on to, because I know this will make a big difference. And that was it, and with nothing in exchange. That was Ralph Ostertag with Mineral Logic, and he did that for me because he believed in the mission here. And since the time I've connected, so many of the different doctors and scientists inside of this series actually then vetted our products, and then you'll see through the series, you'll see them glance down at a bottle, and it was actually the Well of Life products, and you'll see them reference different ingredients. And the majority of all the ingredients that have been discussed in this series, we have them actually in the Well of Life products put together, and we've made them the most affordable and cost-effective that are on the market. And so we just feel blessed about that. We feel so glad that is in front of you, and you have the ability to access that, and it can be totally life-changing. And I just wanted to share that with you as we go through this series, so you can know that these things are not only out there, these tools exist wherever you go. When you know the names of the ingredients and what they do and how they work in the body, that's the emphasis, that's the whole premise of the whole series. So you can know that these tools exist and how they work and how to get your body well at every layer of the process. But the other thing is to know that there are really great products out there that do work and that are effective, and they've been vetted by the doctors in this series. If you trust them, if you trust this information, if you trust my wife and I and the information we've been sharing with you, then understand that these tools are available to you and they can help you and they can change your lives. And that's what I want to see. That's the transformation that we want to see in your life. So just know that those tools are available, Well of Life, and I'm glad to be sharing this information with you here in this setting and to be in this life-changing journey. So just understand that that is a powerful tool that is there for you to understand how to get the best out of your life, and to know that many people can know of ingredients and things that work that could be helpful, and then sometimes what happens is they go to companies that don't really have any interest in people getting well. They're just more interested in marketing, and they're not really actually interested in the complete process of seeing people recover and get better. And so therefore their products end up being very ineffective. And that's what you want to avoid. You want to understand the mission behind a company and the quality of their ingredients and how effectively they work, and testimonials that are life-changing and transforming. And that's why we've shared with you people like Diana Cowett. She was in the series. She shared her story, and Gail Gass. These stories were nothing short of amazing. Like, you saw Gail reverse multiple conditions. You saw Diana and her husband with multiple conditions. Being able to use the tools help them to combat the root cause of the problem, and that changed their life. So glad to be sharing this with you, and so glad that those people, Diana and Gail, found the Well of Life products and they used them to transform their health. And you can transform your health too, and you can use tools that we've shared in this series, and tools including Well of Life to help you in that journey. Thank you so much. The best news about this is that we've put together 6 of our best formulas into a protocol that we're giving as a free gift to people that take action and own natural medicine secrets during this free screening. But remember, we have an extremely limited supply, so take action today to avoid missing out. With this protocol, you'll be able to detox your organs, cleanse yourself of parasites, repair the gut lining, strengthen and boost your immune system, reduce inflammation, and remove toxins at a cellular level, while fortifying your body with the nourishment it needs. Avoid missing out. Place your order today, and I can't wait to see the transformation you achieve in your life.
Oh, I'm glad that I'm on your protocol. Because without this, I would be in wheelchair. And now it is practically normal. My doctor in Cleveland Clinic, a very good doctor, he just couldn't believe it. And my inflammation level was so high that they even couldn't register it.
They were going to cut off your legs.
Yes, because they told me that if I would not increase dramatically, and I increased dramatically, it was very, very high level of chemo, very high level of steroid. And then I started to decrease, and when I decrease, I have flare-up. Not anymore. With this protocol, I don't have new flare-up.
And my story started when I was 8 years old. My mother noticed I didn't have as much energy as my siblings. So I've been going to doctors, but what really changed my life was Lori. To tell you the truth, it was Lori. I watched the Lori tape, and it was when she was first coming out of it after the 3-month deal. And she said, what have you got to lose? Just try it. And I thought, she's right. This, like the money, I think you've really been generous with the products, and the money seems to be, it's not exorbitant. It's great. It's so awesome. I realized, oh my gosh, I've got so much energy. I haven't had this much energy, in years. And I think about all that suffering I had, all the money that I put out with these poor doctors who really meant well. I mean, the naturopaths and everything, they meant well, but they just didn't have as good of a handle on things. Your program is so awesome, and I was so miserable, and now I'm just so much better.
Did you have many symptoms or die-off reactions?
No, that's the thing. This was so easy. I mean, it was the easiest thing I've ever done. I mean, really, I just took the pills and pooped and, got well. I mean, that's how easy it was for me. I would say exactly what Lori said. I mean, if you want to feel better, try this. I mean, because it's my honest belief that this is the protocol. This is what that it's good for everything. Every bad thing that people have. I mean, if it helped me, I mean, my goodness, that's really good stuff. It's amazing. I mean, I'm 69 now. I've been my whole life just dragging myself. And I could have done so much more. And my life isn't over. I mean, now that I'm feeling well, I am going to do a lot more. So that's good. Some more fun stuff and just, yeah, I'll find something that will help people. It'll be good.
Hey Diana, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
So tell me about your journey.
Well, it's been a long one. Back in 1998, well, in 88, I had Guillain-Barré. I was paralyzed, I was on life support. I healed from that, but out of that, I got narcolepsy, which I didn't know. And about 10 years later, after going through much distress with the doctors, putting me on anti-anxiety medicines, things like that, because they thought I was going to get paralyzed again. They diagnosed me with narcolepsy, cataplexy, myasthenia gravis, and my thyroid was failing. And there were so many things going wrong with my body that I prayed about it, and God told me to go on a vegetarian diet 3 times before I actually did it. But I did it, and I got off of 7 medications, and I healed everything but the narcolepsy. But now we've started on your the Toxibinder, Purifier, the 3. I don't know what that bundle is.
Ultimate Detox Bundle.
Yes, we started on that, and so we're just feeling amazing this last week. We're feeling very strong. Got a lot of energy, and it's a great start. I feel like we've only been doing this a month, so yeah, I'm anxious to do more.
Wow, thank you for sharing. So you'd watched Autoimmune Secrets?
Yes.
And then you'd applied some of that knowledge, and then you'd also gone and done some of the Well of Life supplements. And so then if you could explain in a nutshell, like it's, what you and your husband were experiencing, and then where you're feeling at right now, like just show me that contrast between those two places.
Well, our sleep was terrible. We weren't getting good sleep. He was in a lot of pain. He was not able to move. His hands wouldn't close, and he works with his hands. The lesions were on his arm. They were on his legs. In the back of his hairline was just raw sores. And all of that is gone. It's just gone. And he's able to move his hands close, and he's just feeling super energetic. Where our sleep has gotten better. He says he's slept the best he's ever slept in his life this last month. Yeah. So we bought your autoimmune package, and I started, doing some of the recipes in there too. So all of that it's just been a month. So
that's really fantastic. Isn't that encouraging? I hope everyone's encouraged by that. I actually am. You mentioned here that 90% of his psoriasis has gone. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, I don't know that he can say he's completely 100% pain-free as far as the arthritis part of it, but I would say 90% of it's gone.
And how long has it been?
A month.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing when you start implementing the right things in your body and take away the meat. I really believe there's something to that.
You said take away what?
The meat.
I got it. There you go. That's a big takeaway. We try to be diet neutral, but we do believe that the best diet is one that is either low or no animal products. So, and then anyone who's not doing that, like share your story. We want to hear it. Like, that's still like, we get it. It's still awesome. I've seen transformations happen on every single diet.
This is just amazing. I went down to get my mail. We have to go to a place to get our mail. And one of the ladies in my community saw me there, and she said, what are you doing? Because I've lost 10 pounds in the last week, in 2 weeks. And as I was driving up to get my mail, I was thinking, I feel so strong. I mean, I was gripping the steering wheel like you're doing those hand weights. I was gripping it and feeling like I've got strength in my hands, my legs. And I was just like bouncing out of the mail room. And she said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. And so I've convinced her she's got to do this. There was a lot of lessons in there about putting so much more nutrition into your food. And so that was really helpful. This last month, I've just been on a large learning curve on how to cook and eat and feed your body. I feel empowered to reclaim our health, definitely. And I think that we're on the right road. I want to continue to learn. And I thank you for these products that you put out, and the doctors and all their information and their willingness to come on here and share with us and talk to us. It's just great. Thank you. I find it's very difficult to convince people. They really have to have a willingness to want to do it themselves. And you've just got to listen to these stories and see the results that people have had, and believe and jump in there and do it. Just you've got to change your diet. You've got to clean up your gut. I've done it two times in my life, and my husband's done it twice in his life. We backslid, and we ended up he ended up in this situation with the psoriatic arthritis because he went back to eating meat, eating a lot of junk food, and he knew right away that this was the right track. And he said, I'm going to do it with you. I told him I would do it with him, and in a month, he's cleared up so much.
Average kid my age. Well, that was probably the worst part. I mean, I didn't think I was ever going to get better, and so I thought, if I'm not going to get better, I'll either stay the same or get worse, and I couldn't even imagine being any worse. And so that was terrifying. I didn't know what she was going through. All I knew was, to me, I was going through this and no one's helping me. But no one could. I didn't know that. She was in the house a lot more than I was, so she had it worse than me. And I just didn't know. I couldn't be more grateful. And in the way that a parent can be proud of their child, I'm proud of my mom. There's nothing more she could have done.
And his turnaround was so dramatic and fast that he's the one reminding me, Mom, it's time. Okay, I don't want to be without him.
Why is taking your supplements so important to you, Wyatt?
Well, that's what's allowed me to live the life I want to be able to live. How can you top that?
Dr. J, when it comes to cancer, what's the connection between cancer and autoimmune disease?
So cancer is directly related to the immune system. We've got basically two arms of the immune system. And the arms of the immune system need to be balanced. So think of it like a teeter-totter. We don't want one arm tipped more than the other. So the two arms, and these are the main ones, there's some more complexities to it, but there's Th1 immune system, and there's Th2. And then there's a bunch of chemokines and cytokines that are part of these arms per se. But So Th1 is basically that immediate response of the immune system. So when there's a foreign invader, it goes in, it tags it, and then it also does cellular repair, or basically like cell cleanup. And then Th2 immune system comes in, and that's more longer term. So let's say that you get exposed to mercury. Mercury goes on the thyroid, the immune system's like, what is this foreign thing? It goes in to try to kill it. It can't kill mercury because it's an elemental element on the periodic table. It's not a living organism. And so the tissue around it starts being killed. That causes that's autoimmunity of the thyroid. So what happens then is Th1 tagged it, Th2 goes in, and the body gets stuck in there because the mercury's not dying. So it's chronically in this Th2 dominance. This is where we get the RA, the MS, the lupus. So we get stuck in this teeter-totter where Th2 you're stuck in. And then what happens is now we're deficient of Th1, and Th1 is that cellular cleanup, or that cellular debris, or when abnormal cells are formed, it's going to clean it up. So if we're deficient of Th1, that's where the cancer risk comes in, because we're missing the cellular cleanup or the abnormal cell replication, and we're stuck in Th2. So cancer really revolves around autoimmune in nature of Th1 versus Th2 from an immune standpoint. So if we're dealing with cancer and abnormal cell replication and stuck in Th2, then we want to do things to help boost Th1 and bring down or modulate Th2. Or obviously if we're stuck in Th1 dominance, then we want to balance that. But on the cancer side, it's usually Th1 suppression that then will put somebody at risk of cancer.
We see people get rid of pancreatic cancer. We see people eliminate multiple sclerosis. We see people absolutely reverse diabetic type 2 conditions so quick your head swings. So-called heart disease, which isn't a disease. About 3% is a disease. 97% is lifestyle choice. Are you stressed? Do you exercise? And do you eat things that clog your veins? If so, you're going to have heart disease. And so all of this is much more simple than the healthcare profession would like you to believe. Even the natural healthcare profession has everyone on the leash. Come to me, pay me, I give you something. Rather than change you, live right, think better, you make yourself better. So that's our whole thing about educating people. When people come to us, we're not interested in creating dependency on us. Our job is done when they're independent, when frankly they don't need us anymore. When they recognize here are the tools that humans have used throughout.
I had a very, very severe pain. I mean, so severe, I was laying on the bed and I physically leaped off the bed because the pain was so sharp. I was diagnosed with intrahepatic cholangiocarcinoma, liver cancer. It's a rare liver cancer, but the prognosis is extremely grim. Chances of survival, 1 in 100. There's no point in doing anything. You're not gonna survive. I eliminated all refined sugars out of my diet. I exercised every day. I made sure and drank lots of water. I got plenty of rest. I got out in the sun every day. I had faith in God. I'm going to claim the promises of the Bible. I'm going to claim that God is the God of healing. And I'm going to ask, if it is possible, may I be healed from this cancer. God has such a sense of humor. The doctor says it's impossible to double. I'll show him what a miracle is. I'll quadruple it. He said, your blood count is 204. It's 4 times what it was. This is unbelievable. I mean, the doctor said, I am shocked that you're still alive. When it was time for the last CT scan before I went to surgery, they said, this is unbelievable. Your tumor is only 50% viable. Only 50% is alive and remaining alive. However, never forget, hope dies last. As long as you're alive, there's still hope. You can make it.
You were one of the 14, correct?
Correct. I think there's evidence that is building, and I think with more education, encouragement, I think there are more people that could live, that could beat it. I've had 14 CT scans since surgery in 2014, and all 14 scans are absolutely negative to cancer. My faith really was tested. I say just the opposite today. I say, who am I that the God of the universe reached down and touched me and healed me?
The heart is commonly used to express a great magnitude of love. This is probably because it's one of the 5 essential organs needed to survive, and without it, we simply cannot be. A properly functioning heart is imperative to good health. As you probably know, the heart's role is to pump blood through the body, providing it with oxygen to keep the organs alive, and also provide essential nutrients to feed the body and help the body with the removal of excess or toxic substances left over from metabolic processes. Proper respect for one's body means treating it as a sacred temple and being conscious of what we put into and demand from our bodies. Poor diet, excessive stress, inadequate sleep, inactivity, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, prescription or recreational drugs all put a strain on this vital organ, resulting in the heart organ being overworked and life-threatening conditions such as a stroke, heart attack, heart disease, or heart failure can ensue. The good news is that the heart can be healed from the decades of damage and abuse that it sustained. We will learn how to reverse heart disease and maintain a healthy heart in this episode from cardiologists like Dr. Joel Kahn, who will share his discoveries with us and even what he himself has put into practice since he was 18 years old to stay heart smart.
A dear friend in Detroit, Paul Chatlin, mid-50s businessman that was developing angina pain, was researched to go down to the Cleveland Clinic from Detroit, recognizing it was a major center of heart disease, had the inside test called a catheterization, was told you need bypass, come back, we'll do your open heart surgery and we'll replace things and take things out of your legs. And he was all for it. What are you going to do? You get told you need bypass in your mid-50s, you have bypass. But the night before surgery, he learned that there was a famous doctor who taught prevention and reversal of heart disease, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, and Paul Chatlin reached out and had a conversation, actually checked himself out of the hospital. Think if you'd be brave enough to check yourself out of the hospital, 12 hours before open heart surgery that every doctor at the Cleveland Clinic told you needed, except one, the one that gave him the name of Dr. Esselstyn. But within a few months, Paul Chatlin was completely and strictly a whole food, plant-based, no oil diet zealot, really. Had lost weight, blood pressure down, cholesterol down, chest pain went away, shortness of breath went away, back playing tennis, back fully active with his family, no scar in his chest, no scar in his leg, no post-operative complications like can happen with strokes and infections and such. And it's been now 5 years plus, and Paul is vibrant and looks in better shape than ever as he's hit 60 and beyond. And kind of the neat thing, he feels so grateful about all this, is just one case study that in Detroit.
So let's talk about heart disease in women. And for a long time, the myth was pervasive that women would start having heart attacks in their 40s and 50s. And so that's when women are going through menopause. And so the myth got circulated, and it's amazing how many times this happens where the medical profession will look at something that's going on and infer some cause and effect relationship and then run with it. It becomes a multi-million-dollar industry or billion-dollar industry. So if heart attacks are happening in women about the time they go through menopause, then it's probably, lower estrogen levels causing the heart disease. Turned out that that wasn't the case at all, even though that became part of the justification for giving women hormone replacement therapy for a long time. What it really is that women take longer to experience the negative consequences of eating a poor diet. And so women who have heart disease have it for the same reason as men who have heart disease. You eat a lot of saturated fat and cholesterol and animal foods and protein, and you don't drink enough water, and you don't exercise, and before you know it, you have narrowed arteries and high blood pressure and lots of plaque in the arteries, and you're really at high risk of a heart attack or stroke. And it's the same really for women and men. The difference is at what age the negative effects are very noticeable.
So there's a whole battle that the problem is sugar or the problem is meat and saturated fats. Reality is the problem is both of those. In fact, more on the saturated fat level. sugar, elevated sugar definitely affects the system. Ironically, it also causes significant amount of inflammation. That's a whole different thing that processed sugar does. But saturated fats, we're not even talking about TMAOs and all these other factors. Saturated fats affect those receptors, those insulin receptors. And it's almost like it clogs it up. Of course, it's a little more complicated than that. And by doing so, it doesn't make it available for insulin. And if insulin is not able to bind to the receptor, glucose can't get in. So it's both saturated fat and sugar levels, but especially saturated fat levels. It's so funny that people make statements because of confirmation bias, things like, you know, we've done all these commercials and all this public education about fat, yet we still have diabetes and we still have disease, so it must not be fat. And it's cynical because they know that, yes, we might have done the education, but the amount of fat consumption has not gone down. It has gone significantly up. We've done a bad job of educating. The marketing of selling fat and meat has been way better than the marketing of selling not eating fat and meat. The statistics show that in the last 10 to 15 years, despite the marketing against meat and fat, the consumption of meat and fat has gone exponentially up. So when they make the argument that it must not be fat or meat because we've been doing all these commercials and against it, they are cynical. They know better. They know that our marketing has been terrible as far as public health is concerned. So your body produces a lot of fat and cholesterol, but you still need some fat. And because a lot of the vitamins are what they call fat soluble vitamins, and you need some fat. So what kind of fat is that? The kind of fat that's most beneficial is that kind that's you find in foods. And usually, most often, there are poly and monounsaturated fats that are found in avocados, and none of them are without, they all have some level of saturated fats as well, but lower levels. And nuts and seeds, they all have fats. These are good fats. And it's important that we don't, eat those fats in excess as well. You can't just live off of nuts. You will not be very healthy. So a certain amount of fat from nuts and things of that nature, as well as avocados, is fine. Also depends on your disease states. Always take these things with your own personal state in mind. If you have a genetic cholesterol disease process, that you naturally have a high cholesterol level, then you have to be a little more rigid as far as even natural fats. But for general population, the fats that you get in foods and natural foods are fine. Things that are actually processed and extracted, certain foods have significant amount of saturated fat, which has not been found to be good for the body. So there is a little bit of learning to be done as far as what is saturated fat, what's poly and monounsaturated fats, how much we need. And the third level is personalization. If I have a genetic or familial disease, I have to be a little more rigid, even with the good fats. In general, fats should be taken in food form. And if you're going to add any poly and monounsaturated fats, which should be minimal, it should be in small quantities.
In line with the perfect design of the body, general inflammation when we injure ourselves is the body's way of immobilizing it, defending it and protecting it until the injured limb or wound has sufficient time to rest and heal. Chronic inflammation due to unhealthy high trigger foods, stress, high blood sugar levels, and obesity is another story altogether. Did you know that chronic inflammation can increase your likelihood of having a stroke or heart attack? We've interviewed the experts on inflammation. They will explain the various causes of chronic inflammation and share with you what they have discovered and what you can do to reverse it. You'll learn about the incredible all-natural spices you may already have in your kitchen pantry that are excellent anti-inflammatory agents. These natural herbs are healthy for you, they taste great, and they're inexpensive and they can be readily available. There are some very easy lifestyle choices that you can start doing right now to heal your body from painful and harmful inflammation.
As far as heart disease goes, you have to really look at one of the most important numbers in the body, which is the omega-3, omega-6 ratio. I said before that cholesterol is not the problem, it's inflammation. And one of the biggest causes of inflammation in your bloodstream is higher levels of omega-6 fats and not enough omega-3s. There's research showing that 96,000 preventable deaths can happen But why do they happen? Because of omega-3 deficiency. So you have to really measure that number, and we do that with something called the omega-3 acid index test here in my office, where we take a drop of blood, and literally within 12 days, we can see, number one, how deficient you are in omega-3s, and number two, what that ratio is. If that ratio is 1-to-1, you're in great shape. That means systemic inflammation throughout your cardiovascular system is at very, very low levels. Now, why do you need one level of omega-6s? People say if it's bad, why should you have it at all? Because inflammation heals. In the short run, you need inflammation to heal your body. If I slam my fingers in the door, it's the blood coming to those tissues what makes it heal. But inflammation, when it's chronic, becomes bad for the body. And that's what that imbalance does. So when you have a ratio of more than 1-to-4 in favor of omega-3s and omega-6s, when that number goes above 1-to-4, then it becomes highly inflammatory to your cardiovascular system. And your incidence of heart attack, stroke, any sort of cardiovascular issue skyrockets.
What is the use of omega-3 fatty acids? Omega-3 fatty acids have been found to lower inflammation in your body. There was a study done with omega-3 fatty acids with NSAIDs, and they were equal in competency in having an efficacy for results shown in 122 people, that it decreases inflammation, any kind of pain, whether it be joint pain, abdominal pain, muscle pain that you have. Omega-3 fatty acids has been shown to decrease inflammation in the body. There are 4 types of omega-3 fatty acids. The ones that we can talk about are ALA, which is alpha linoleic acid, EPA, ETA, and DHA. ALA is the only thing that is found in plant sources, so found in greens, in nuts, and seeds, especially flax seeds, chia seeds. All of them have the ALA component of the omega-3 fatty acids. EPA, ETA, and DHA are found in oily fish, krill, roe, mussels. All of those have more of the EPA, ETA, and DHA substances. So omega-3 is really, if you're not a vegetarian, available in a lot of fish oils. That is how it is marketed as.
Yeah, the beauty of the message from a heart doctor teaching on how to prevent heart disease, how to reverse established heart disease using lifestyle. Lifestyle is the word. Lifestyle is nutrition predominantly, what you eat, 3 meals a day, what you snack on, but it is more than nutrition. It's adequate sleep, it's fitness, it's managing stress, anxiety, and anger with maybe yoga, with meditation, with community relations, church, synagogue, mosque, whatever works for you. Music's wonderful and helps many people deal with the stress of life. It's all of that. It's obviously not smoking. It's trying to maintain optimal body weight. Lifestyles that promote inflammation by eating processed food, by eating high-fat foods, by not exercising, by gaining weight, by not sleeping, by smoking, by not managing stress. Boom, inflammation. Middle word is fire, flame. And you can measure it in the blood with blood tests like high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And by adopting this wonderful protective lifestyle, you protect yourself from inflammation.
Cayenne pepper, the very substances that make it hot, which I know isn't for everybody, but for those of us who can enjoy a little bit of heat, know that that heat is actually stimulating your digestive tract, and it's actually nourishing your cells with some fabulous antioxidants that are really good for you. So cayenne peppers and all of the peppers, the spicy ones, chili peppers as well, have some incredible nutrients. I'm a huge fan of spice. And I think that one of the steps we can all take is to clear out our spice cabinets. Take a look at what's in there. If you've got stuff that's 20 years old, that's probably not so good anymore, get rid of it so you've got some fresh spices. And then make sure you're well stocked. And see if you can try some new spice mixes and add them to your foods and see how your culinary life expands. Spices can be so good, not just for your health, but also for your pleasure, for your sensory aliveness and experience. And some people are actually enjoying mixing it up a little bit. So we're adding some savory spices to sweet dishes. For example, people are adding, they're combining chili with chocolate. And then some people are also adding some of the sweet spices like cinnamon or nutmeg or allspice to more savory dishes like pasta sauce or lasagna. It's fascinating how you can mix these things up and get some new culinary experiences that are delicious and so nutritious.
From your experience, have you seen a correlation between heart disease and brain?
Oh, big correlation between heart disease and brain health. And it makes perfect sense when you think about it. The brain is the biggest utilizer of glucose and oxygen and water, nutrients. Well, how does this get delivered to the brain? The cardiovascular system. So if you're eating your way into cardiovascular disease, of course you're going to eat your way into dementia and Alzheimer's. And what you see is as the incidence of cardiovascular disease goes up, so does the incidence of Alzheimer's. And this is not only true in the United States, but it's true every place else. Alzheimer's is very specifically geographically distributed. You don't see much of it. You don't see any of it in Okinawa. You see very little of it in rural Asian communities, and you don't see any of it in Northern Africa. You know where you see it? In the meat-eating countries, like Norway and Australia and the United States, because all that animal food intake is clogging up the arteries and creating cardiovascular disease, and there's a tremendous correlation between the two. Same causes. And it's very unfortunate. Right now, the leading growth industry in the nursing home business is memory care. And you do not want to end up in memory care. It's the worst quality of life on the planet because you are just warehoused until you die, and increasingly drugged up because giving antipsychotics to Alzheimer's patients makes them nice and docile and kills them early, actually.
I have hundreds of case studies for you for
Really?
for all of the factors affecting that, right? Blood sugar, inflammation, lipids, right? And some of the other cofactors that go with that. I mean, detox, 30 days, you make a huge change in their labs.
This content that we're talking about right now, is thinking about having it in our series on brain health. What do you think about that?
I think this content is crucial to brain health. We have to educate people on this because if we don't work on all of the systems of the body, we're never going to be able to balance the organ of the brain. Like, we have to work on all of the body systems in order to get the brain chemistry balanced out. It's crucial. If we don't do it, we're never going to get results.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because that's where a lot of functional medicine, in my opinion, has, and holistic medicine has fallen into substituting drugs for supplements. Cancer, possibly the most chilling word ever uttered. Chances are that you know or knew someone with this devastating disease. The World Health Organization states it's the second leading cause of death globally, and it was responsible for an estimated 9.6 million deaths in 2018. With so many suffering, the thought of curing cancer naturally without the harmful, painful radiation and treatment seems like an impossible dream. Dr. Peter Breggin, one of our guest speakers, doesn't believe in miracle cures, but there was no denying it when he witnessed firsthand how a drastic change in diet saved his friend from the ravages of cancer.
My worst stage with cancer was trying to, I can't remember, well, I can remember how it happened, but there was a point where I was going through the healing process and my body took a turn for the worst. My body wasn't accepting a lot of the treatments, and this is before we had a lot of information about the cancer itself. We were trying a lot of things to begin with, and one of them didn't go well. Put me in the hospital. I was in pain from my chest, and my esophagus area was just, just pain everywhere. I couldn't get rid of it. Couldn't lay down right. So I actually got put in the hospital, and I was in there for about 2 weeks, and they had me on morphine. They had me on all kinds of painkillers, fentanyl, and all I could do was just lay there and just try to be in pain, try to eat. I would eat, I'd come back up again. Like, I just couldn't. I lost about 100 pounds in that time from just not being able to eat, not being able to hold anything down, just being in pain. I wasn't walking at all, I wasn't moving at all, so all fat, all muscle, everything just gone. Prior to being diagnosed, I was 240. My lowest I got was 148 in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks time. So even that much of weight loss that fast just put my body in shock, put my body in starvation mode, and they had to put a PICC line in me and feed me intravenously with a TPN, I believe it's called. And that's how I ate for about 2 weeks, just through an IV, and between that and the painkillers, and it was just like, I don't know. At one point, the hospital said there's nothing else we can do except send you home on hospice care. So hearing that told me, well, now I'm just gonna go home and die. Like, that's basically what they did.
Dr. J, if somebody can protect themselves from this autoimmune mechanism, reduce their exposures, get their immune system working properly, make sure they're not like introducing foreign invaders to affect their system, that they can have confidence against diseases like cancer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, your body was designed to heal. So when you support the body, remove what's interfering with it, I always think of it, God doesn't make junk. You know, our bodies were made to heal. Our job, like from a clinician standpoint, is identify, okay, what's interfering with it, and let's work on removing it, and let's get out of the way. Let's let the body heal.
And I'll tell you one story from my practice. And I don't believe in this kind. I don't believe in fads. I don't believe in miracle cures. I've stood fast against all of them. But it's not a miracle cure. It's returning to eating the way we did when our bodies were growing. So I had a friend. He's a professor, dear friend. We share political views. We talk about stuff. And he confided in me. He didn't confide in anybody else, except his wife, that he had chronic lymphatic leukemia. He'd been diagnosed by his primary, by an endocrinologist, by a hematologist. And he had it, and he was probably going to live with it. They thought that he might survive it. That, you know, he might have it when he died from something else. They weren't sure, but he certainly had it, and he was going to have it. And I urged him to go on a plant-based diet, and I referred him to Pam, who shares a lot with us in common. He called Pam. He became a patient of Pam, which is remarkably easy and inexpensive. And he did the plant-based diet totally in the most extreme way you can. And he doesn't have chronic lymphatic leukemia anymore.
Sure. So I grew up in Alice Springs, which is right in the middle of Australia. And so we had a very indigenous rich upbringing. So that impacted me from a very young age. I remember I was 5 years old and they would take us out on school excursions and teach us how to survive from nature. And that's when a little light bulb went off in my brain that said, okay, so the healthiest way for us to live is to be able to go out to our own backyard and pick foods like fruits and vegetables, seeds and nuts straight from the earth and eat them. So I remember thinking that, and then all throughout my childhood, my parents raised us very natural, quite healthy. And then as soon as I was going to university, I moved to the city, to Brisbane City. And that's when I started to indulge in a very fast food, processed food lifestyle. So whenever I had a craving for anything that I wanted, I would just go out and eat it. So if I had a craving for chocolate, it was like, okay, I'm gonna go get chocolate, or gummy bears, McDonald's, pizza, KFC, Doritos, like any kind of junk food, you name it, I would eat it. And I lived this way for 5 years. So I ate junk food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 5 years. And that's when I had a huge wake-up call. So one day, something just popped in my neck and I went to the hospital. I had a 3.7 centimeter tumor, so the size of a golf ball, in my lymphatic system. And I was at the end of 21 years old. I was like, damn, I'm so young. This is like such a bad start to life.
I love things as basic as like flaxseed because they're just this amazing example of a food that produces this mucilaginous gel. Looks just like epithelial cells, right? The cells that line like our nasal passages all the way down the alimentary canal. Because flaxseed is such a good thing for ulceration-related conditions and helps to regulate epithelial tissue cancers, like for example, breast and prostate. And those are very hormone sensitive. And it turns out that flaxseed has these lignans, which are turned into enterolactone and enterodiol, which are the plant analogs of endogenous estrogens. Only the difference is that when you have excessive estrogen of that type, human, say estradiol, it will overstimulate certain receptors in the body. That's why sometimes estrogen dominance they talk about being related to like fibrocystic dense breasts and therefore precursors to types of hormone-sensitive cancers, is that it can block out the action of very strong estrogens while simultaneously stimulating mildly the receptor and maintaining longer contact at that receptor site. which means that it's basically adaptogenic. It's modulating the receptor. It's also known as a selective estrogen receptor modulator. Pharmas try to co-opt that and created, aromatase inhibitors like Arimidex, right, to try to, fight breast cancer. But flaxseed has now been clinically validated, epidemiologically, all these animal studies as well, to be one of the most powerful preventive chemotherapeutics on the planet. So in terms of people who've been already diagnosed with breast cancer, they take flaxseed, the chance of recurrence goes down significantly, and future mortality related to cancer significant drops. It's just a seed. It has this amazing benefit. This mucilage is so good for regularity. That's one of the benefits of it. If you go on Greenman Info, we've indexed research on flaxseed. There's over 70 health benefits that have been identified in the literature, and it can't hurt a single fly like on the planet. So that's why when I look at the pharma model, and you look at Arimidex, right? It's a drug produced by AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca actually also owns the patent on tamoxifen. This is the company that was part of Imperial Chemical Industries, and they started Breast Cancer Awareness Month in '85. So people think this is a government-sponsored awareness raising event to help save people from breast cancer. Actually, it was a combination of Big Pharma, American Cancer Society as well, and the government sort of working together to make the public think that the best thing they could do to prevent cancer is early detection. Because we don't know what causes cancer, right? Like for example, the chemicals Imperial Chemical Industries was producing, I think polyvinyl chloride was one used in PVC, known mammary carcinogen, and this company is sponsoring this awareness event that's making people think we need to raise more billions of dollars to find a cure. The cure is you identify the cause and you remove it. That's the cure. Instead, they're saying, oh, well, actually take Arimidex or take tamoxifen, which is classified by the World Health Organization as a carcinogen. It's a powerful liver carcinogen. It may even contribute to breast cancer. This is called, pinkwashing, right? Cause marketing campaigns that make people think that the very products and very companies behind the breast cancer epidemic are, going to save them from it using pharmaceuticals or raising more money. So flaxseed in that context is this incredible alternative food that has been validated to truly prevent and even in some cases regress cancers that are hormone sensitive, breast and prostate. And it costs pennies a day. And that's the reason is that obviously pharma is, it's a death sentence for pharma for people to know this information.
Doctors from City Hope, they said, or basically the hospital I was at, offered City Hope to come in and help me out. And they basically said, hey, either start chemo or they send me home in hospice. That was my options. So what do? Start chemo, sure. So I didn't want to, but it is what it is. So I did 2 sessions of chemo with City Hope. And then along realizing how much the high dosages were and my body was just reacting poorly to it is when I came back to the center and started treatments here. And they gave me a very good regimen, strict regimen to follow. It included treatments, diet, even some Chinese medicine, meditation, all kinds of stuff. So I was on a keto adaptive diet, and it required me to eat vegetables, non-inflammatory foods. I did follow that regimen very strictly for a long time. I did the alkaline water. So every day I was drinking, up to, I can't remember the count, it's supposed to be 100 ounces, I believe, of, I guess your body weight in half. So yeah, about 100 ounces of alkaline water a day. Staying hydrated, staying active, so small walks here and there, keeping my body going. I did go through treatments at the center here for various IVs like mistletoe and Salcinium and different regimens that they put together. And I also went through the IPT program, which is a type of chemo here they do that's insulin-based, very low dose, but very effective. I also saw another doctor about Chinese medicine to attack my problem with, I guess, what's the word? H. pylori is what I was diagnosed with also. I guess H. pylori is linked to cancer. So they started treating me for H. pylori, started treating me for autoimmune disorders. So did that and meditation, stress-free life, all that stuff. So all that combined, I feel like just made this perfect cocktail for healing. And I've been on that since. You know, I still practice good eating habits, healthy mindset, meditation, you know, try to stick to it. And so far, so good.
About magic mushrooms, but mushrooms are kind of magic, and not just because they change our consciousness with certain chemicals in certain forms. Button mushrooms, shiitakes, maitakes, a lot of the mushrooms you can eat from the regular grocery store turn out to have incredible healing powers. For example, there was a study done by researchers at the University of Perth in Western Australia. They studied 2,000 women for a decade. Half of them had previously had breast cancer, half of them had not. They looked at what they ate, how they lived, whether they smoked, all kinds of different factors. They separated out those factors so they could just get a clear sense of how diet impacted their lifestyle and their health outcomes. And what they found was that those women who ate mushrooms daily, like the equivalent of about a button mushroom a day, had a 64% drop in their risk of dying of breast cancer. 64%. When those same women also drank green tea daily, they had an 89% drop in their breast cancer risk of dying from breast cancer. 89%. Now, can you imagine if some new drug came out that could slash breast cancer by 64% or 89%? Can you imagine the amount of marketing that would go into pushing it? We'd have governments all over the world saying, everybody, we've got to genetically engineer this into our water supply or something. But here we've got mushrooms and green tea right here at our fingertips. No one can patent them, but they're available to all of us. And they're accessible, and they have side benefits, like they help fight cancer, but not just breast cancer, other forms of cancer. They help fight heart disease. They're even good for your brain health. So this is the kind of wonderful thing that I think Mother Nature gives us, is foods that actually don't just help one condition, they help a whole bunch of them, because what's good for your body in one place is probably good for your body in another place. The researchers at the University of Perth actually looked at the difference between cooked mushrooms and dried mushrooms and different forms. And here's what they found. They found that the 64% drop in risk of breast cancer death for the women who ate mushrooms daily, that was when they were eating cooked whole mushrooms. When they ate dried mushrooms, like from a powder or something, then they still got benefit, but not quite as much. They had a 50% drop in risk of breast cancer death over the course of the study. So apparently it's beneficial, but apparently whole mushrooms that haven't been dried first are a little bit more beneficial. Now, some people eat raw mushrooms. I'm not a fan of that because they actually contain some toxins that can be detrimental when they're not cooked. So in general, I think cooking is the way to go with mushrooms specifically. In general, raw foods can be wonderful, but mushrooms are one place where it makes sense to cook them.
The hardest thing about trying to heal yourself naturally is learning how to eat properly. And mainly because, you know, my lifestyle before was totally crazy, totally radical. I mean, I drank, I smoked, I worked too many hours, I ate fast food because you never have time to stop. I'm always go, go, go. So learning how to stop and take care of yourself was quite the learning curve. So learning how to cook was definitely something that was hard. And it took me a while to understand and learn. And learning how to use things like, you know, ginger root or shop for organic vegetables, or prep them and use turmeric or different alternative substitutes is just like it's a whole other world. So I had to learn how to use those types of things and grind ginger and cook fresh, and you know, you can't, and now that I've done it for so long, I can't go to like a Chili's or something like that because I can smell it. Like my palates are so clean now and my nose sensors are so clear that I can smell like how they prep it, and it just smells terrible now to me. Like I can't eat anything that I don't make anymore, almost. And I started doing a lot of meditation, you know, taking time for myself, understanding that I can't control everything that happens. Even the cancer, I got it. I can't control it. I have to learn how to get rid of it, you know, maintain it, keep it down. Learning how to not sweat the little things because, you know, stress is a huge huge part of a lot of illnesses. You know, it causes things to inflame you, it causes you mental distress, causes you all kinds of stuff. And I was definitely the stressful kind of person before, so learning how to be stress-free again, or for the first time, that was something I had to do almost immediately.
There's a thing about infections that is very, very poorly understood, and that is that if you have a big bug, okay, that big bug can carry a smaller bug. This bug can carry a smaller bug, and then that bug can carry an even smaller bug, okay? So let's call this one a parasite. Okay, we'll call this one parasite. Well, parasites carry plenty of bacteria. Bacteria can carry fungal forms. And fungus themselves can even carry viruses. Okay, let's say someone has Epstein-Barr, which is a virus, okay? And they're suffering from Epstein-Barr. And we do all these things to ramp up their immune system. Their immune system kind of beats it down a little bit, and it gets a little bit ahead of it, and then it comes back. It comes crashing back on them, okay? And if you do blood work, their virus counts go up, and then we can beat them down a little bit, and then they come back up again, and we beat them down again. What's interesting is these are extremely cyclic. Okay, when you're dealing with these clinically with patients, they become extremely cyclic, and so their symptoms will come and go. Okay, and they'll get a little better, and then they get worse again, and then a little better, get worse again, and it becomes just a cycle that they deal with for years and years and years, which is why in medicine we call them chronic infections. Candida. Candida is a real common one that we talk about. Yeah. We talk about Candida a lot as a fungal infection. Epstein-Barr, chronic hepatitis, AIDS. Okay, those are herpes. Those are all chronic viral infections. What we find clinically is if viruses are the smallest, okay, we have to take care of these bugs before the immune system can handle this bug. Okay, so we got to work upstream before we can take care of this. But in order to take care of this, we got to work upstream here. And again, if we want to take care of this, we got to work upstream here. Okay, so if the body has parasites in it, okay, it's going to tend to have an imbalance in the microbiome. And so bacterial imbalance will just be common. It's going to be a really hard thing to fix. And once that microbiome is off, you'll have fungal infections, and they'll be common. It's just going to be a common thing. And if that's off, you're wide open to having viral infections. Okay, so if we take care of this, we eliminate this, okay, then we can take care of this. This clears up actually pretty easy. And then once this is cleared up, this clears up pretty easy, and then we can take care of this. But it's kind of like this. If your body is if we're dealing with these big bugs, they're taking up so much energy from our immune system, and our immune system has to take so much effort, spend so much time on containing these and containing the waste that these produce, okay, that it doesn't have time to worry about these. Okay, so these can run rampant in the system. Because what's interesting is the waste from these is excellent food for these. Okay, these just go bananas on the waste that these produce. Okay, now same thing with this. Once bacteria gets all throughout the system, it starts producing waste. Okay, and as it produces waste, fungus goes bananas off of that waste and just loves it. Okay, and once these top ones have set the stage, okay, and the body's all inflamed and irritated, there's no defense against viruses.
And that's why they say it's
Uncurable, exactly. And what I'm telling everybody here is this is curable if we eliminate this first. Okay, and think about this for a minute. All of these bigger bugs. Okay, say we have somebody with Epstein-Barr. Okay, and they have chronic fatigue from that Epstein-Barr virus, right? That's real common. Very, very common. Way more common than it should be. You know, there's. What you'll always find is they almost always also have a candida imbalance. Okay, and a lot of times they'll also have problems with their teeth. Okay, because bacteria in their mouth are eating their teeth, so they got a bacterial issue. Well, one of the things that we've found in research, I say we've found, I've seen the medical community has discovered here in the last few years, that the presence or absence of parasites will impair the immune system, allowing viruses to just float right into our system and multiply unchecked. Also, if parasites get into the system and propagate, not only do they shut down the immune system, they create different toxic materials which activate enzymes in our body that will activate dormant viruses. So you have somebody with herpes, okay, they've got a herpes and they get these sores in their mouth or whatnot. Anytime these guys get active, they'll produce chemicals that trigger enzymes in our system that activate those herpes viruses.
Usually with herpes, like cold sores or whatever,
right,
they say that stress causes it. So what chemical reaction does stress cause that would attract parasites?
Stress causes a suppression of your immune system. Okay, what happens is when you get in that fight or flight response, and you're hyped up, you're stressed, you're just under a lot of pressure, your body's prepares itself to run, okay, get away, to escape, or to fight, okay. And so if it once that's all prepared, you have short term, your immunity goes up, okay, because when you're fighting, what are you doing? You're defending yourself. And so when your body's ready to fight, temporarily your immunity goes up. But then there's an inflammatory response that happens because of this fight or flight response that our body goes through. Okay, so there's, you get hormonally, you'll get epinephrine and norepinephrine, which are your adrenaline hormones, will skyrocket. Okay, now when that happens, you have superhuman concentration capacity, you have superhuman strength, you have all these great things happen, but it's very short-lived because it's only meant to enable you to run away from the situation and escape, or to fight and defend yourself. Okay? Shortly after we have this epinephrine, norepinephrine spike, this spike in our adrenaline, we have a spike in cortisol. Because if you get in a fight, you end up getting banged up a little bit, okay? And cortisol is an anti-inflammatory hormone, right? And so it helps our body reduce swelling. So if you get punched in the eye, your eye swells up, okay, your body will produce cortisol then to help shrink that swelling, right? So things can start to heal. But it shuts down your immune response. Okay, so when your cortisol goes up, your body's immunity drops. Okay, and so when that happens, then you get, once your immunity drops, you're just open. All you got to do is be exposed and you can pick up an infection. So we go back to our toxic world we were talking about. If you live in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, they've done air quality studies in these big cities and have found all known airborne pathogens in the air in big cities like that. So you go right downtown, just the air everyone's breathing, there's every known airborne pathogen that we know about is in Moscow, Mexico City, Tokyo, LA, Chicago, New York, Toronto. You know, every major city that they've ever done these, you know, massive air quality studies, they've found all airborne viruses, fungus, even parasite cysts. Okay, there's the egg stage of parasites. You can find almost every known parasite in the air in these big cities.
So basically, it's not good to be stressed in a big city.
Right. Exactly. You know, which is interesting because where are the people most stressed? Usually in the big city, you know, and so exactly it becomes a vicious cycle. So this is an extremely important thing to understand. So people dealing with chronic viral infections have to detoxify their system of these other larger bugs, okay, and balance things out first here before their body can deal with this virus. Okay, so let's say you get a cold or flu, you get this little virus comes in your system, makes you sick for a couple days, and your body should be able to deal with that. Even if it's dealing with all these other things, that's something. But if it's something that your body cannot adapt to and overcome, that virus then gets accommodated by your body. Your body just takes it in, you know, makes it part of its own makeup. And so that virus becomes a parasite in your system, okay, and it lives off of you. But your immune system can't handle this and take care of this until we get all these other things taken care of. Does that make sense? Yes. And we see this clinically over and over and over again. We get people with Epstein-Barr, particularly herpes type viruses, you know, even chronic hepatitis and other immunodeficiency issues and things like that. We'll see them recover as we eliminate all these other things. It's really interesting because we're not even doing anything antiviral, quote unquote, for these people. We're just cleaning up their system and removing all these other interferences, all these other blockages to their immune system. And once we eliminate all this stress off their immune system says, oh, hey, that little virus, we'll take care of that, you know, boot it right out, you know. And then they don't have the issues that they were dealing with. So anybody have any questions on that? But this is something as not very well known. And I hope to get this out to the public. I hope this actually gets out.
It's interesting, the Uber driver that took me over here, he was doing a cellular detox from a doctor that we know, that whose program we both respect and encourage people to be on. And I shared it was a cellular detox, right? And I encouraged him, based on what you'd shared with me, was that there's probably bigger things that he would need to go after in order to really get the benefits of something on this smaller level. Right. So, and for him, this guy was overweight. He said his doctor was going to put him on some kind of medication for his type 2 diabetes.
Sure.
He might even be in the morbidly obese category. This man drove me here. And I could have been wrong, and I told him to refer to you, but is that generally correct in that he probably needs to combat the bigger issues?
Absolutely. Upstream is exactly. You got to go upstream. So let's say even like in Detox 101, you have drainage detox and you have cellular detox, but they're very, very different. In cellular detox, you're going to have to pull out heavy metals, you're going to have to pull chemicals out, and you're going to have to replace them with nutrients. But if you do that and you haven't drained the body properly, there's no place for those heavy metals and chemicals to go. And so all they do is just circulate and cause more damage. Okay, so that's very important to.
You get sick.
Exactly, and what will happen is the person will get way more sick before they start to get better, because the body will eventually have enough of it, and it'll start draining itself. Okay, but I mean they suffer a lot unnecessarily. So you got to drain the body, and this is part of draining the body. These are things that you got to drain out of the body. You got to flush this stuff out of the system before. See, viruses are going to act inside your cell. They actually go into the cell and they'll intermingle with your DNA even. Okay, so they're way intracellular. Okay, they're very tiny. These aren't going to necessarily do that, but they'll cause such disruption of your immune system and suppression of your immune system that your immune system won't even, it doesn't have time or energy to deal with those viruses.
We've heard from amazing renowned doctors and shared the real life success stories of so many who were once suffering and now are free of pain. They've broken the chains of prescription drugs and their side effects and are now living their lives feeling better than they've ever been in years. There's no question that diet plays such a crucial part in our health, and that by detoxifying our bodies to allow proper absorption of the right nutrients, vitamins, and supplements, along with positive lifestyle approaches, we can maintain great health, ward off disease, reduce inflammation, and increase longevity for ourselves and for our loved ones. Please share and discuss what you've learned in these episodes with those who you care for. Help us spread the word and our mission for a healthier, happier future. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode and quickly put everything that you've learned today to good use, or even share this with others who need this vital information about natural medicines. Remember, right now you can save up to 93% for instant on-demand access to our silver and gold packages.
But this massive discount won't last forever. This offer is only available during this premiere screening, so act now to take advantage of the dozens of hours of information on video, audio, and in PDF format that accompany each package. Plus, you get lifetime access and over $2,778 in free bonuses.
You'll also get books, DVDs sent out to you in the mail, so you can read along and learn from all these amazing resources at your own pace, at your fingertips. With the information gathered directly from 57 of the world's best doctors, scientists, and researchers, all having expertise in both traditional medicine and alternative medicine, Natural Medicine Secrets is one of the most complete resources for anyone looking to heal their body with natural medicine instead of drugs. To see for yourself all that you'll receive in our silver gold packages, as well as the huge 93% discount available just for a limited time, click the link below now. See you in the next episode, and thanks so much for joining us.
Different kind of fats. Okay, so let's do candle again.
It's funny.
Is it enough?
That was awesome. Did you see that, Lauren?
Yeah, that was good.
Pretty cool, right?
He was Yes. Okay.
Yes. Look, it is grass.
Asher, vamos a cambiar el pamper, ¿ok? Vente, vámonos. Vámonos. Vente, mi amor. Sí, tú eres...
Go.
go, 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 go. Yeah, come on, go, 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 go.
You gotta do a little beat, Jono.
Go, huh?
You gotta do a little beat. Wow! He's done. We didn't teach you this.
Baile conmigo.
Baila, 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 baila.
Baile conmigo.
Baila, 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 baila. 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 This is all natural. He wouldn't teach him any of this. He hasn't seen anything like that. He just starts doing it.
Baila, 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 baila.
Muy bien, yay!